Chicken tikka masala. It's not actually an Indian dish, believe it or not. Well, chicken tikka is an Indian dish, but chicken tikka masala, so in a tomato gravy, was actually invented in Glasgow of all places. It's now the national dish of the United Kingdom. For good reason, it's super tasty. Now there's a few steps involved. There's 2 marination processes and then a gravy, but it's really worth to take the time and make this from scratch one day for your friends and family. So let's get stuck in. First up, let's marinate some chicken. I like to use chicken thighs for this recipe, and the reason being is because they've got a bit more fat and more flavor. If you want to, you can use chicken breasts, but thighs work better. So we're gonna skewer this chicken and cook it, either over charcoal or on a barbecue or even in the oven. So we're gonna trim our chicken thighs up, and you want pieces around that size that when we skewer are all kind of similar size. I don't stress too much about the fat. I like to leave it on there as I think you end up with a more moist product. That's saying if you do see bits of like excess hard fat, you probably can trim that off. So the first marination. Now one thing you'll see a lot in Indian cooking is the requirement for what they call ginger garlic paste. And that's effectively equal parts minced ginger and garlic. And most Indian households will just have this stuff on plus or in the fridge at all times. So we need this in 3 points in this recipe. So we're gonna make a decent batch of it now that'll last us the whole recipe. So ginger, garlic. In a food processor, just a little dash of water to help process. Now you're not looking for like super smooth, you just want, you know, like a coarse-ish paste, not coarse, medium coarse paste. There you go. It's gonna save you mashing and grating a whole bunch of ginger and garlic over and over again. And if you've got some left over, just chuck it in the fridge and it'll last for a few days, no problem. The first marination is really simple. Ginger garlic, salt, kashmiri chili powder, and the juice of half a lemon. Gonna give this a nice mix, and then we'll let that set aside for half an hour, just for all those flavors to get to know each other, and the salt to start brining the chicken effectively. It smells delicious already. Doesn't it, Dazz? Just let that hang out at room temp. For the second marinade, we need to use some mustard seed oil, and we're gonna wanna temper it. So we just bring it up to a point where it starts to smoke, and then we'll let it cool down before we add the rest of our ingredients. Mustard seed oil has a pretty pungent smell as far as oils are concerned, and it's this really bright golden color, almost looks like saffron, infused saffron water or something. Now to be perfectly honest, I have no idea why you heat mustard oil to smoking point and cool it down, but in every recipe and every Indian cook I've seen use it, they've done this. So if anyone knows, let me know in the comments why this is a practice that's always done. So you can see here it's just starting to smoke, and now we know it's ready to go. So we're gonna pour that into our marination bowl. Start building the rest of the marinade. We're gonna add some more kashmiri chili powder, turmeric, garam masala, ground cumin, salt, ginger garlic. Give that a whisk. Some kasuri methi. I like to break this up a little bit. Just rub it between your hands. And I love the smell of this stuff. It has a really authentic Indian cuisine smell, in my opinion. And some yogurt. Whisk that all around. And that's our second marinade. So the original marinades hang out for half an hour now. Now we're gonna add our second marinade and just fold it through. Now at this point, you can leave this 3 hours, 6 hours, overnight if you wanted to, but you need to leave it for at least an hour in the fridge. And maybe an hour and a half later. Ideally, I do really like to keep this marinating for longer, but Mitchell gets angry. Anyway, so like I was saying, there's a couple of ways to cook this. You can just lay this onto a tray in one even layer and cook it into a really hot oven or a pizza oven if you've got or anything like that. What you're looking for, you don't need to cook this all the way through, but you do want some char on the outside. So the way that I'm doing it is my preferred method, which I've got my barbecue cranked up outside with charcoal, and I'll cook it over that because you get really nice char. But yeah, like I was saying, you can also put it in an oven at 250 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes until you get some nice char. But you don't need to cook it all the way through, because we are going to finish cooking it in the gravy that we're about to make. But I like to skewer it up like this. And again, we're not serving these on these skewers, so it doesn't need to look absolutely perfect. Now, I ate a lot of Indian cuisine when I lived in London. There was a huge Indian community, and I had a lot of Indian friends there. And in my last years, I lived in East London, which was kind of, where Brick Lane is, and it's a big Indian community. And I lived above in an Indian restaurant. And I used to go to this restaurant all the time with my mate Sammy Sweetheart and Logie Bear, and we'd get a mixed grill and chicken tikka. I have very fond memories, and it was really affordable and super delicious. And I'm pretty sure it was BYO as well, so we could bring our own cans of whatever. And
yeah, no good.
No, they love me in there. Now, it can be quite spicy if you want it to be this recipe, but it can also, if you don't want it to be super spicy, if you're a bit allergic to spice, like Dazz or Mitch, you can just tone it down on the spices, but you will lose a bit of that really beautiful red color from the kashmiri chili powder. But me and Caitlin, we like it spicy. So these guys will have to deal with it today. All right, I'll go wash my hands and then we'll head out to the barbecue. Now, I don't have a tandoor at home like most people, so I think this is the second best option. One of these kettle style charcoal grills work really well. I like to hang the skewers across the middle, and that way you get good color on the outside and the meat doesn't stick to the grate. You can also just do this on a normal char grill barbecue, gas, charcoal, electric, whatever you've got. If all else fails, then just crank your oven to 250 on a tray and pop them in there for 10 to 12 minutes until you start getting some nice color. As soon as you see these get good color on the outside, pull them off. But like I said before, you don't need to stress to make sure these are cooked through, because you're gonna finish cooking them in the gravy anyway. Now, to be honest, these small round skewers kind of suck, because when you try and flip the chicken, it just rolls around in circles. So if you can get the flat ones, they're much better to get more even color when you flip it on the skewer. So, chicken's done. Oh, my cookbook. If you didn't know, I wrote a cookbook. The link's in the bio. Go order it now. We'll leave this to one side and we'll start making our gravy. So turn your pot into a medium-low heat and get some ghee in there. To the ghee, we're going to add green cardamom, some cumin seeds, some bay leaf. Just going to infuse that ghee with those spices. A couple of red onions. I'm going to slice those nice and fine. They are going to get blended, so don't stress too much, but you do want them to cook evenly. Pinch of salt. While those onions are softening up, I'm just going to dice up 4 tomatoes, a green chilli, and some washed coriander stalks. All right, our onions are nicely softened and we're just starting to develop a bit of flavor, or a bit of color, I should say. A bit of flavor also. We're really bringing the sweetness out of those onions. So to that, we're gonna add ginger garlic, chili powder, a little bit of turmeric, garam masala, some cashews, kasuri methi. Stir that around. Now we'll add our tomato, coriander, and chili. Another pinch of salt and some water. So we're just gonna let this simmer for about 20 minutes just so everything softens up. And then we'll blend it and we'll add our cooked chicken. All right, it's been simmering for 30 minutes almost now. I'm gonna pull out the bay leaf, this. And if you do see the green cardamom, I'd pull those out too, but I wouldn't stress too much if you don't find them all. And the tomatoes are all nice and tender. Once I find this last bay leaf, we can blend it. If I find this last bay leaf.
Didn't you only put 2?
No, it was 3. Oh, well. Guess that's staying in there. All right, to blend it. Now, you can just use a stick blender, or you can use whatever you want really, food processor, standing blender. I like these because you don't have to take it out of the pot. But we'll get it till it's nice and smooth. All right, now we've got our gravy sufficiently smooth. And in all honesty, if you do use a standing mixer, like a proper blender, you will get a much silkier gravy. But I think it's a bit safer to use one of those. And to be perfectly honest, I don't have a big blender, so Time to give it a last little season before we add our chicken back in. Give it a taste. Oh, it tastes pretty good. It needs a little pinch of salt. It needs a little bit of honey. Oh, it's gonna start splitting. Just a little bit of sweetness there. And then to get it silky smooth, we're gonna add major flax, some homemade butter in there, and a little dash of cream. All right, we're gonna emulsify those in there. So you kind of don't want any heat on this. Otherwise you might split some of that. It's no big deal if you don't. Once it's emulsified, you can turn the heat back on nice and low. But it's time to add the delicious chicken back. Here comes our chicken, and that goes. Then just a nice low heat, stir that through. All those delicious flavors marry up together. Little taste of the gravy. Oh, yum. Couldn't get in my belly fast enough. Dazz is so disappointed. All right, time to plate. Bit of naan, some rice. Just gonna finish this curry right at the end with a little bit more kasuri methi. Now this is all about that gravy for me. And then of course a little bit of coriander just to tie it all together. And there we go, chicken tikka masala. Guess we better have a taste. Oh, yum. The thing is that I know there's a lot of steps in this recipe, but there's a reason there's a lot of steps, and that's because it just layers up flavor. And it's definitely worth taking the time to do it. That is so much better than any packet brought chicken tikka masala or any base sauce. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. Like this video if you took anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace.